She said it like she was doing me a favor. We were standing in our kitchen, the little galley that always smelled like coffee and garlic, and she was holding her phone like it was a shield. The dishwasher was running. The end-of-cycle beep was the only thing in the room that sounded sure of itself. "You're stable, Miles," she said, "but I need someone who can keep up with my life, someone bigger." I looked at her and nodded once. "Okay," I said. That was it, no shouting, no bargaining, no "how could you," just one word that landed in the space between us like a clean stone. She blinked like she expected more, like she was waiting for me to spin out so she could call me dramatic later. She didn't know I'd already seen what I needed to see. I didn't confront her, not yet. Hey friends, please like this video and leave a comment with your impressions. This will be a great help. Thank you. We never tire of reminding you, it's all thanks to you. A year ago, if you'd asked me what my life looked like, I would have said it was simple in the best way. I'm Miles. I was 38 then, pushing 40 now. I work as a route supervisor for a regional grocery distributor outside Cleveland, Ohio. It's not glamorous. It's schedules, pallets, hours, and drivers who have been doing the same job longer than I've been alive. I'm good at it because I don't panic. When something breaks, I fix it. When the weather turns, I reroute. When a truck shows up late, I don't scream, I solve. My girlfriend, Vanessa, was 35. She worked in development for a nonprofit that ran fundraising galas and donor events. She was sharp and pretty and could talk to anyone. She was the kind of person who remembered names and birthdays, who sent handwritten thank you notes, who could make a room feel like it mattered. We lived in a condo we rented in Lakewood, a place with an HOA that took itself seriously. There were rules about everything: what color your curtains could face the street when you could put out trash, how long your Christmas lights could stay up. Vanessa hated that part. I didn't care. I liked the predictability. What we built looked normal from the outside. We had a shared calendar, a shared Costco card, and a shared couch that always had one corner where the cushions sagged because that's where I sat after work. We talked about someday, not in a dreamy way, but in a practical way. Someday we'd buy, someday we'd travel, someday we'd do the whole thing. She pushed for someday to have a date, and I didn't resist. Not really. We got engaged last spring. Not the big, filmed, knee-in-the-middle-of-a-restaurant proposal. Just us on the balcony, early evening, the lake air cool, and her hands cold from holding a glass of wine. I had the ring in my pocket for a week because I'd been waiting for a quiet moment. She cried. I thought it was happy crying. It might have been something else, but at the time, I saw what I wanted to see. After that, the planning started in a way that didn't feel like planning. It felt like a machine waking up. Vanessa had a friend named Tessa who acted like a wedding, was less about love and more about optics. Tessa was one of those people who spoke in lists and prices. She worked in real estate and wore heels even at brunch. She was always just being honest, which was code for saying something rude with a smile. My sister Brooke was the opposite. Brooke is older than me, the kind of woman who has a pantry organized by category and labels. She liked Vanessa at first because Vanessa was charming and said all the right things. My best friend Andre worked with me at the distributor, but on the warehouse side. He's the guy who knows everyone and can get anything done without making it look like work. He told me early on, quietly, make sure you're not just signing up to be an accessory. I laughed it off. Our landlord, Mr. Zeller, was an HOA board member with a mustache that looked like it belonged on an old baseball card. He was polite in a stiff way, always talking about community standards. And then there was Jonah, Vanessa's coworker. Jonah worked in corporate sponsorships at her nonprofit. I'd met him twice. He had a handshake that lasted a second too long, and he talked like he was always pitching. All those people orbiting around us made it feel real. That's what I thought. When other people are involved, you assume it means something. Looking back, the red flags were small, but they stacked up like boxes in a hallway until one day you realize you can't walk through anymore. The first one was money, but not in the obvious way. Vanessa didn't ask me for cash. She didn't drain my account. She just started treating my budget like it was a suggestion. The wedding choices got bigger and bigger. The florist had to be this one. The photographer had to be someone who shoots editorials. The venue couldn't be a banquet hall. It had to be an experience. When I asked how we were paying for all this, she'd say, "We'll figure it out," like I was being negative for wanting a plan. The second red flag was the comparisons. At first, they were jokes. Jonah says the sponsors will love the theme, she'd say, like he was part of our decision-making. Or Tessa thinks we should do something more elevated, like Tessa's opinion was a law. The third red flag was how she talked about my job when she thought no one was listening. She'd smile at me and say she was proud, but then at parties she'd introduce me like I was a nice piece of furniture. "This is Miles," she'd say, then she'd add, "He's very reliable," like it was my title. The fourth was how she treated my calm like it was weakness. If I didn't react, she'd poke harder. "Why don't you ever get fired up?" she asked once, annoyed, like passion was only real if it came with raised voices. The fifth was the way her phone became a private room I wasn't allowed to enter. We'd always been open, not because we checked each other, just because we didn't hide. Then suddenly she started taking calls in the hallway. She'd step onto the balcony to text. She'd de-angle her screen away like she was protecting something. I noticed. I didn't say anything, not because I was scared, because I didn't want to be the guy who accuses. I wanted proof, not a feeling. The receipt came on a Tuesday, in the most boring way possible. We had a shared iPad on the kitchen counter. It was an old one we used for recipes, grocery lists, and honestly, for playing music while we cleaned. Vanessa had connected her email to it months earlier because it was easier to RSVP to donor events and check confirmations without pulling out her laptop. One night she was in the shower and I was packing my lunch for the next day. It was late. I had a 5:30 a.m. start. I was on autopilot, putting fruit in a container, sealing a sandwich bag, lining up the little things that made mornings easier. The iPad lit up with a notification. At first I didn't think anything of it. It was just a banner at the top. Calendar invite, weekend getaway, Cedar Ridge Lodge. I froze with my hand on the fridge handle. We had a shared calendar. That invite wasn't on it. I set my lunch container down slowly and tapped the notification, not because I was snooping, because it was on our shared device and it popped up right in front of me like it wanted to be seen. It opened to an email from a lodge in Pennsylvania. Confirmation details, 2 guests, check-in Friday, a note about a couple's massage appointment. The name on the reservation wasn't mine. It was Vanessa and Jonah. My mouth went dry. I could hear the shower running, water hitting tile, her humming faintly like everything was normal. I didn't scroll for hours. I didn't dig through her inbox. I didn't go hunting. I did what my brain does when a truck goes missing on a route. I took a picture of what was in front of me, then I backed away. I tapped the email details and saw the date. It was the same weekend she'd told me she had a donor retreat out of town. I looked at the time stamp, 9:18 p.m. It was fresh. Then I saw something that made it worse because it wasn't just cheating, it was planning. There was a forwarded thread below the confirmation. She sent it to Jonah with a message. "Finally, no more pretending. This is going to feel like breathing." I didn't read more. I didn't need to. That line told me exactly where I stood in her mind. I locked the iPad and set it face down on the counter like it was dirty. I stood there for a full minute, staring at the sink. I could hear my own heart, steady but loud like a bass drum. When Vanessa came out of the shower, towel on her hair, she smiled at me. "You're still up?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, packing lunch. She leaned in and kissed my cheek. Her skin smelled like her lavender shampoo. My stomach turned, but I didn't move away. I let her think everything was fine. I went to bed and stared at the ceiling. I didn't sleep much. My brain kept trying to solve it like a problem. Maybe it's not what it looks like. But it was exactly what it looked like, and the most painful part was how casual it was, like she was tired of pretending to be with me. The next day, I did something I never thought I'd have to do in my own relationship. I started preparing. Not revenge, not traps, just preparation. I called Andre on my lunch break and told him I needed a favor. Andre doesn't ask for details. He just listens and then asks, "What do you need?" "I might need a place to store some stuff for a bit," I said. "Say no more," he said. "I've got space in my garage, and my wife won't mind. She's got a heart like a warehouse." That made me breathe easier for the first time in 24 hours. I called my sister Brooke that night. I didn't tell her everything. I told her Vanessa and I were having issues and I might need advice about separating things if it went south. Brooke went quiet for a second, then said, "Miles, I'm going to say this once. Keep it clean, keep it legal, and don't let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. I asked her if she knew a decent attorney. Brooke's friend from church, a woman named Leela, worked in family law and also handled housing disputes. Brooke said she'd send me the number. I didn't call Leela yet, I just saved it. Then I did the most unromantic thing in the world. I opened our condo lease and read it like a contract, because it was. Our lease renewal was coming up in 3 months. We were both on it. There was a clause about early termination and about one party requesting removal with written consent and landlord approval. I copied the lease to my email. Again, not hacking, not sneaking. It was in our shared folder on our shared laptop, the same place Vanessa pulled it from when she wanted to complain about HOA rules. I checked our shared bank setup. We didn't have a joint bank account, but we had a shared credit card we used for groceries and household stuff. It was in my name. Vanessa was an authorized user. I looked at the balance. It was higher than it should have been. There were charges for things I didn't recognize, boutique purchases, a spa, a restaurant in downtown Cleveland on a night she told me she was working late. I didn't dispute them yet. I didn't shut the card off. Not yet. I wanted one clean moment where she said the thing out loud, so I could leave without a single doubt. That moment came sooner than I expected. 2 days later, we were at a small holiday party at Tessa's place. It was early December, cold enough that your nose burned when you stepped outside. Tessa lived in a renovated duplex with white walls and those big framed prints of city skylines. Vanessa was in her element, laughing too loudly, holding a glass of wine like it was part of her outfit. Jonah was there. I hadn't known he'd be there. Vanessa hadn't mentioned it. When Jonah saw me, he smiled and walked over with that long handshake. "Miles," he said, "good to see you." "Yeah," I said, "you too." Vanessa hovered near him, too close, not touching, just angled toward him like magnets. At one point, I walked into the kitchen to get water, and I heard them in the hallway. Vanessa's voice, low and sharp, "I can't keep doing this forever." Jonah's voice, a soft laugh, "Then don't, just move it along." Vanessa said, "He's not going to make it hard. He's Miles. He'll just accept it." I stood still with my hand on a bottle of water. There it was, not just cheating, a plan, a belief that I'd shrink quietly into the background like a piece of furniture being moved out. I stepped back into the hallway, and Vanessa saw me. Her eyes widened for half a second, then she smoothed her face like she'd practiced. "You okay?" she asked, too bright. "I'm fine," I said. On the drive home, she was quiet. The car heater hummed. The windshield wipers squeaked in a slow rhythm. She stared out the window like she was watching a life she didn't want. When we got home, she took off her coat and threw it over a chair. "I'm tired," she said. I nodded and started taking off my shoes. I could feel the moment coming like a storm front. She stood in the kitchen doorway and watched me. "You're not going to ask about Jonah," she said. I looked up. "What about him?" Her lips pressed together, annoyed. "You're so calm, it's like you don't even care." I set my shoes neatly by the door. "I care," I said. "I just don't do drama." She let out a breath, almost a laugh. "That's the problem. You're stable, Miles, but I need someone who can keep up with my life, someone bigger." And that's when I said it. "Okay," I said. She blinked. "That's it." "What do you want me to say?" I asked. She crossed her arms, frustrated. "I want you to fight for me." I held her gaze. "Fight for what?" I asked quietly. "For a version of you that doesn't exist." Her face tightened. "You're making this into something it's not." I nodded once, like I was hearing a driver explain why he missed a delivery window. "I saw the lodge confirmation," I said. Her eyes flicked fast toward the kitchen counter where the iPad sat. For a second, she looked like she might deny it. Then she lifted her chin. "It wasn't supposed to come up," she said, like the problem was the notification, not the betrayal. "That's interesting," I said. She scoffed. "Don't do that. Don't act like you're above it." "I'm not above anything," I said. "I'm just not confused." Her voice rose a notch. "It's not like you were giving me what I needed." I didn't argue. I didn't list the ways I showed up. I didn't point to the bills I paid on time or the nights I stayed up waiting for her to get home safe. I didn't mention the engagement ring still sitting in its little box because she wanted to pick the setting together. I just said, we're done. She laughed, short and bitter. You can't just decide that. Yes, I can, I said. It's my life. For a moment, she looked scared. Then she flipped it, like she always did. You're going to throw everything away over one weekend? She asked. I kept my voice even. It's not one weekend. It's the way you talked about me like I wasn't even a person. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She searched for something that would stick, something that would make me the villain. Then she said the line that told me she didn't understand me at all. You'll never do better than me, she said. You're safe, but you're not exciting. I gave you a life. I nodded. Okay, I said again, but this time it meant something different. It meant, I see you clearly now. She turned away like she'd won, like she'd landed a final blow and I'd just taken it. She went into the bedroom and shut the door hard enough to rattle the picture frames. I stood in the kitchen and listened to the dishwasher beep again, polite and finished. Then I started my logistics plan. The next morning I got up at 4:45 like always. Vanessa was still asleep when I left. I didn't wake her. I didn't leave a note, not yet. At work I did my job. I ran routes. I dealt with a driver who called out sick and another one who blew a tire on I-90. I kept my voice level. I kept moving. There's a strange comfort in doing something you know how to do when the rest of your life feels unstable. On my lunch break, I called Leela, the attorney Brooke recommended. She met me in her office the next day, a small place with warm lighting and framed certificates on the wall. I told her the basics. No screaming, no long story, just facts. Engaged, living together in a rented condo, both on the lease, shared credit card in my name, wedding vendors not yet contracted, just inquiries, some deposits paid for a venue tour and a photographer hold. Leela asked, do you feel unsafe? No, I said. Good, she said, then we keep it clean, we do notice properly, we document what matters, and you do not get pulled into arguments. She told me what I already knew but needed to hear. I could request to remove Vanessa from authorized user status on my credit card immediately. I could also freeze future charges on that card. If we had any shared bills, I should separate them. If the lease required consent, we'd approach the landlord with a clear proposal. One party takes over, the other gives written notice to vacate. Do you want to stay in the condo? She asked. I thought about it, the HOA rules, Mr. Zeller's mustache, the little balcony where I proposed. No, I said, I want out. Then you get out the right way, she said. No disappearing, no withholding, no games, you provide written notice, you return keys, you protect your credit. That night I went home and didn't mention lawyers. I didn't mention anything. Vanessa acted like we were in some weird pause. She was polite in a fake way, like a coworker you don't like. She left the next day for her donor retreat, which I now knew was her lodge weekend with Jonah. She packed a suitcase and didn't look at me when she zipped it. I'll be back Sunday, she said. Okay, I said. The moment the door shut, the condo felt like it exhaled. Andre came over that afternoon with his truck. We didn't talk much, we just moved. I packed only what was clearly mine. Clothes, my tools, my work boots, my grandfather's watch, the framed photo of me and Brooke at a Guardians game, the slow cooker my mom gave me, the things that had a history. I left anything that could be argued. I left the couch. I left the blender we bought together. I left the dish set because Vanessa cared about it more than I did. As I packed, I kept thinking about that lodge email. Finally, no more pretending. So I stopped pretending too. I took photos of the condo as it was, clean and intact, because I've learned in life that documentation keeps people honest. I took pictures of my keys. I took a photo of the lease signature page. I took a photo of the utility bills showing what I'd paid. Then I called Mr. Zeller. He answered like he was annoyed someone had the nerve to exist. Zeller. Hi, it's Miles Carter, I said, Unit 3B. Oh, he said, warming slightly. Yes, how can I help? I need to talk about the lease, I said. I'm moving out, I want to do it properly. There was a pause. Is everything all right? It's a personal matter, I said, but I'm giving notice and I want to confirm the process. He liked that. People like Mr. Zeller like process. He told me to email him a written notice and we'd schedule a walkthrough. He said because both tenants were on the lease, Vanessa would need to be included on the notice. Not a problem, I said. I drafted the email that night. Simple, clear, polite, no accusations, no emotions, just facts. I, Miles Carter, am providing notice of intent to vacate Unit 3 be effective January 31. I am requesting a lease amendment or early termination options. Please advise required steps. Vanessa Hart is copied. I copied Vanessa because that's what you do when you want it clean. Then I did the next step. I removed Vanessa as an authorized user on the credit card and turned on a setting that required my approval for any new charges. I paid the balance down as much as I could without draining my savings. I wasn't trying to punish her. I was trying to protect myself from waking up to $1,000 in wedding planning charges. I also called the one vendor we'd actually given money to, a photographer who required a small deposit to hold a date. It was in my name. I asked for their cancellation policy. They sent it to me in writing. I canceled. They kept part of it, returned the rest. I saved the email. Again, no revenge, just receipts. On Friday night, Vanessa texted me a photo of a fireplace and a glass of wine. Long day, finally relaxing, she wrote. I stared at it. The lodge looked exactly like the email. I didn't respond. The next morning, she called. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. I let it go. Then she texted, "Are you seriously ignoring me?" I waited an hour. Then I replied with one sentence. "We can talk when you're home." That was it. No, where are you? No, who is with you? No pleading. No anger. I was done playing detective. When she came back Sunday afternoon, she walked in like she expected the condo to look the same. It didn't. The space where my tools usually were was empty. My shoes were gone. My jacket hook by the door had nothing on it. The closet looked like someone took half the life out of it. Her face shifted. "What did you do?" she asked, voice sharp. "I moved my things," I said calmly, standing by the kitchen counter. "You can't just take stuff," she snapped. "I took my stuff," I said. She dropped her suitcase and marched into the bedroom. I heard drawers open and slam shut. Then she came back out holding the little ring box. "Where is it?" she demanded. I didn't even blink. "I returned it," I said. Her mouth fell open. "You what?" "I returned it," I repeated. "We're not getting married." She stared at me like I'd stolen something from her. "You're being cruel," she said, suddenly softer, like she was switching tactics. "You're punishing me." "I'm not punishing you," I said. "I'm ending it." She stepped closer. "Miles, you're making a mistake. Jonah is just, it was complicated. I was stressed. You don't understand my world." I looked at her. "I understand it fine," I said. "You said I'd accept it. That's what you told him. That's what you think I am." Her eyes flicked away again, just like they did the night I mentioned the email. She didn't deny it. She couldn't. Then she tried anger again. "So what? You're just leaving me with everything." "I emailed Mr. Zeller," I said. "You're on it. You saw it." Her face tightened. That email was embarrassing. I nodded. "It's also factual." She scoffed. "You're acting like a robot." "No," I said. "I'm acting like someone who respects himself." The conversation could have turned into a shouting match if I let it, but I didn't. I kept my voice steady. "Here's what's happening," I said. "I'm moving out by the end of the month. I'll pay my share through that date. After that, you can choose to take over the lease if Mr. Zeller approves, or we can terminate and both leave. That's between you and him." "You can't do that to me," she said. "I'm not doing anything to you," I said. "I'm doing something for me." She stared at me, breathing hard, then said, "You're really going to walk away without even trying?" I thought about all the little times I tried, the conversations about budget, the times I asked for honesty, the way I adjusted my schedule so I could be home when she got off late, the way I listened to her donor drama even when I was exhausted. "I tried," I said simply. "You just didn't respect it." She started crying then, the dramatic kind, the kind that makes you feel like you're supposed to take care of them. She covered her face. She made small sounds. A year earlier, that would have pulled me in. This time, I stayed where I was. I'm not going to argue, I said. We can discuss practical stuff, bills, the lease, anything else. I'm not available. She looked up through tears. You're heartless. I didn't react. I'm done, I said. That night, I slept on the couch with a blanket, not because I was scared, but because I didn't want to share a bed with someone who treated me like a placeholder. The next 2 weeks were paperwork and calm moves. Mr. Zeller scheduled a walkthrough for a Thursday afternoon. Vanessa tried to change the date twice because she had work, which I now understood could mean anything. I stayed firm. I told Mr. Zeller I'd be there. If she couldn't make it, that was her choice. I boxed up the last of my things and moved them to Andre's garage. He helped without commentary. His wife, Marisol, brought us coffee and didn't ask questions. She just patted my shoulder once in a way that said she understood more than she needed to. Vanessa tried a new approach. She started acting nice. She cooked dinner one night like nothing happened. She left a plate for me and said, I made your favorite. I didn't eat it. I thanked her. I put it in the fridge. I wasn't rude. I just didn't accept the bait. She tried guilt. My mom is going to hate you, she said. I'm not dating your mom, I said. She tried rewriting. We were having problems anyway, she said. Yes, I said, and you chose to solve them by booking a couple's massage with Jonah. That was the first time her face truly flushed with shame. For a second she looked like she wanted to scream, but she didn't. She just turned away. Because the truth is hard to argue with. The clean exit happened on a Tuesday morning. I picked that day because Vanessa had a full day of meetings. I knew because she'd left her printed itinerary on the kitchen counter, right next to the iPad, not hidden, just there. Another little receipt, another reminder that she was careless when she thought she was in control. I loaded the last 2 boxes into my car before sunrise. The air outside was so cold it made the inside of my nose sting. The parking lot lights buzzed faintly. Somewhere, a neighbor's dog barked once, then stopped. I walked back up to the condo with my keys in my hand. The hallway smelled like someone's laundry detergent and old carpet. Inside, I took one last look around. It wasn't sentimental. It was like checking a room before you leave a job site. Make sure nothing is left behind that matters. I left a note on the counter, 2 sentences. Vanessa, I've moved out. All communication going forward will be in writing regarding the lease and final bills. I wish you well. No insults, no poetry, no dramatic last line, just boundaries. I set my keys in the same spot. We always kept them and walked out. At Andre's place, I slept in his guest room for a week while I found a small apartment closer to work. It was nothing fancy. Beige walls, old carpet, quiet. It felt like peace. The fallout started the moment Vanessa realized I wasn't coming back. First came the messages. You're really going to abandon me. Then we can fix this. Then you're punishing me because you're insecure. Then fine, I didn't even want you. Each text was a different version of her trying to regain control of the story. When I didn't respond beyond practical matters, the flying monkeys arrived. Tessa called me first. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail that sounded like a press release. Miles, I think you're making a rash decision. Vanessa is under a lot of pressure. She loves you. You're just taking the easy way out. I deleted it. Then Brooke called me, voice tight. Vanessa's mother called me, she said. She says you left without warning and stole money. I closed my eyes. That's not true, I said. I know, Brooke said, but I told her I wasn't discussing it. I'm proud of you, by the way. That mattered more than it should have, but it did. Jonah tried, too, in his own way. I got an email at my work address from him. The subject line was man to man. I didn't open it. I forwarded it to my personal email, saved it, and then blocked him. I didn't need to hear what a guy who sleeps with engaged women thinks man to man means. Vanessa started posting on social media, not directly about me, but the kind of vague posts people make when they want sympathy without consequences. Sometimes the person you build with gets scared when it's time to level up. Or healing from betrayal looks different for everyone. I didn't comment, I didn't defend myself, I didn't go public. People who know you don't need your explanation, people who don't know you don't deserve one. I kept everything in writing with Mr. Zeller. We agreed on a final walkthrough date after I fully vacated. Vanessa showed up that time with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, acting like she was being cooperative now that she realized the landlord was the one with power. Mr. Zeller did the walkthrough, clipboard in hand. He noted normal wear, nothing major. He asked about the security deposit distribution. Vanessa immediately said, "It should come to me, I'm staying." Mr. Zeller looked at me. "Is that agreed?" I said if she stays and takes full responsibility for the lease going forward, I'm fine with her receiving the deposit return, minus any damages. Vanessa looked startled, like she expected me to fight, like she expected me to try to hurt her. But I wasn't there to hurt her, I was there to leave clean. Mr. Zeller nodded, satisfied, and wrote it down. That was the thing about doing it calmly. It gives people less room to make you the villain. It turns it into paperwork, not drama. A month later, I was in the grocery store after work, grabbing a rotisserie chicken and some vegetables. It was an ordinary Tuesday night, fluorescent lights, Christmas music playing too early, a kid crying near the cereal aisle. I heard my name. Miles. I turned and there she was. Vanessa stood near the floral section, holding a small bouquet like she'd just picked it up to look like she had a life to go home to. Her hair was done. Her coat was nice. She looked like the version of herself she always put on for donors. Jonah was with her, half a step behind, pretending not to be nervous. Vanessa's eyes flicked over me like she was assessing damage. "You look fine," she said. "I am," I said. Jonah cleared his throat. "Hey, man." I nodded once. "Jonah." Vanessa forced a smile. "So this is it?" she asked. "You really just left?" "Yes," I said. "That's what happens when trust is gone." She scoffed, but it sounded weak. "You didn't even fight." I tilted my head slightly. "I don't fight for people who plan to replace me," I said. Her face tightened. Jonah shifted his weight like he wanted to disappear into the Christmas poinsettias. Vanessa's voice got softer, which meant she was trying a different door. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. "I believe you meant it exactly how it sounded," I said. "You just didn't think I'd hear it." She stared at me for a second. Something honest flashed in her eyes. Fear maybe, or regret, or just the realization that she'd misjudged me. "You think you're better than me now," she said. I shook my head. "No," I said. "I think I'm better to myself now." That was the moment Jonah finally spoke like he had to salvage his pride. "Vanessa deserves someone who matches her ambition," he said, like he was reading from a brochure. I looked at him calmly. "Then you should match it," I said, "not just borrow it." Jonah's face reddened. Vanessa's eyes widened, offended on his behalf. Of course she was. I didn't wait for a response. I picked up my bag of groceries, adjusted it in my hand, and nodded once, polite. "Take care," I said. I walked away, hearing her say my name again, but I didn't turn back. In the parking lot, the cold hit my face like clean water. My breath came out in a white cloud. I loaded my groceries into my trunk and sat in my car for a moment before starting it. I realized my hands weren't shaking. My chest wasn't tight. There was no urge to text anyone, no urge to replay it. It was just done. A few weeks after that, Brooke invited me to her place for Sunday dinner. The house smelled like roast and cinnamon. Her kids were loud and happy, running around with toy cars. Brooke handed me a plate and said quietly, "You look lighter." I laughed a little. "I feel lighter," I said. Andre texted me later that night a picture of his garage, my boxes still stacked neatly. "Whenever you're ready," he wrote. "But also, you can leave them here forever if you want. It makes me look organized." I smiled at that. Vanessa stopped texting after a while, not because she suddenly respected my boundaries, but because people like her get bored when they can't get a reaction. When the story doesn't give them anything to work with, they move on to a new audience. I heard through Brooke months later that Vanessa and Jonah didn't last, not because I did anything, not because of karma magic, just because the same personality that makes someone cheat also makes them restless. The no more pretending becomes, I need more again. It always does. I didn't celebrate it. I didn't gloat. It didn't change my life either way. My life changed the day I chose not to argue with someone who was committed to misunderstanding me. Now my apartment is quiet. My coffee tastes like coffee, not like tension. My calendar is mine. My money is mine. My weekends are mine. And there's a kind of peace that comes from knowing you didn't need to destroy anyone to protect yourself. You just needed to leave the table when you realized you weren't being served.